This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.
Welcome back. Former Minister of Health, Dr. Dwayne Sands, today at the Rotary Club of West Nassau says, according to data as of June 22, 2022, there are 800 to 1,500 new cases of COVID per day in the country. Dr. Sands says because PCR tests are not being included in the daily dashboard and there are many Bahamians who use the government's free testing, the public does not have an accurate depiction of COVID cases in the country.
Based on estimates, that in the Bahamas right now, as of June 22nd, that we probably have about 1,000 cases a day. And the challenge is that we simply do not test, because the only numbers that go into the dashboard are PCR results. So if you don't get a PCR result, you don't end up on the dashboard. And there are many people that test at home, go to their friend to test them, they get a confirmation, they say, okay, I got COVID. That doesn't enter into the equation. So the predicted number, according to our world in data, from upper level, mean level, et cetera, is anywhere between 800 and 1,500 cases of COVID in the Bahamas per day.
He says because of multiple mutations of the virus, the current vaccines no longer impact the viruses. He says even after multiple boosters, the vaccine's protection rates dropped after 20 weeks. He suggests there needs to be an update on the formula of the vaccines.
What is fascinating is that Omicron appears to be even more stealthy than every other virus. And so as this virus has mutated, it now no longer is impacted by vaccination in terms of preventing symptomatic infection. So the subvariants of Omicron now escape some of the antibodies from your 1 or 2 shots of Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca. And even after you get boosted, your protection drops off over a period of 20 weeks or so. So this article published on the 22nd of June, 2022, Moderna now claims that they have a Omicron-specific vaccine. So COVID has evolved, vaccinations are going to evolve. Next slide.
Dr. Sands says the harsh reality is that as much as we want to get back to business as usual, stop social distancing and wearing masks, that is not happening. He says we must stop ignoring what is going on around us. He offers these words of advice for the current government and the public.
I am not calling for a lockdown. What I am calling for us to do is to pay attention, to stay awake, to continue to test, to continue to look at the data, and to not give people bad information, because people want to be able to protect themselves. Right now, every single one of you knows somebody that has COVID. Every single one of you. And yet, if you look at the dashboard, it says there's only 52 people that tested positive for COVID in the Bahamas yesterday. How do those numbers add up? What we're talking about is washing your hands, sanitizers, wearing masks, and avoiding irresponsible interaction with people that you don't know. That's it. That's basically what's going to work. And in the meantime, let us support the science and hope that the science brings us an up-to-date vaccine.
Dr. Sands says he is hopeful that we can work together to slow this ongoing pandemic for the betterment of our economy and for the maintenance of our health. Just days removed from the repeal of the COVID-19 testing guidelines for fully vaccinated incoming international travelers at our borders and the overall squashing of the travel health visa for international travelers, JCN took time to speak with officials at the Lynden Pindling International Airport to get a better understanding of what these amendments meant for the traveling public. Jan Knowles, Vice President of Marketing and Communications at the Lynden Pindling International Airport, says, as of now, there has yet to be any notice noticeable uptick or fall off in traffic at the airport. She notes that while there has not been any appreciable change in travel in the days immediately following the lifting of the restrictions on June 19th, passenger numbers continue to recover from the impact of COVID-19. She says they anticipate this will continue as travel becomes easier and less restricted, among other factors. As for the lifting of the travel health visa, Ms. Knowles says that, like most of the global travel industry, the Lynden Pinley International Airport welcomes the lifting of restrictions on travel and will continue to adhere to all recommended health and safety guidelines. Friday, June 24th, will be recognized as Regional HIV Testing Day 2022. The Bahamas National HIV/AIDS Program in the Ministry of Health and Wellness will provide free HIV testing, free health screening, and giveaways on Friday at Pompey Square downtown from 8 a.m. to 3:45 p.m. They say HIV testing is self-care. Although HIV is no longer a death sentence with advanced medications available, if allowed to go untreated, it can still result in serious illness. The Ministry of Health is still encouraging individuals engaging in sexual intercourse to use contraceptives, which are readily available at their Rosetta Street and Shirley Street locations. Have you ever watched a television show where treasure hunters come to the Bahamas, they find treasure in Bahamian waters, and you wonder if the Bahamian government gets a share of the spoils? While speaking at the weekly press briefing at the Office of the Prime Minister and National Security Minister, Wayne Munro said the royalties the government has received to date from treasure hunters has been, quote, unsatisfactory, end quote. Well, Wednesday in the Senate, as he laid out a number of legislative items on the government's agenda, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Senator Ryan Pinder, says the amendments to the Antiquities, Monuments, and Museum Act will ensure that the government gets its fair share of any future treasure discovered in Bahamian waters.
Madam President, amendments to the Antiquity, Monuments, and Museum Act and associated regulations. The government is seeking to update the Bahamas legislation relative to underwater cultural heritage by amending the Antiquities and Monuments and Museums Act along with its amendments to the associated regulations. The proposed amendments specifically relate to licensing requirements, costs, timeframes, geographical areas, and the current government licensing revenue split with respect to salvage licenses.
The Attorney General went on to share the percentage amount the government receives from foreigners salvaging wrecks in Bahamian waters.
Madam President, right now the government gets 25% of our assets that people dive up and take out of the country. We will reverse that. We will get the majority interest in our cultural heritage and assets that are under the water in this country. That legislation is currently under review and currently being amended, and we look to table that in rather short order, Madam President.
Meanwhile, National Security Minister Mr. Wayne Munro said while there are no licenses that have been approved by the Davis administration, admitted that there was one granted by the Minnis administration that is currently operating in an unsatisfactory manner, with no government audit to confirm what is found. A company called Allen Exploration was given a license to search for the sunken treasure of the wreck of a famous Spanish galleon believed to be off the coast of Grand Bahama and Walker's Key. Reports are that the salvage team is already recovering gems and pendants from the ocean floor. And finally, the Ministry of National Security held a ribbon-cutting ceremony commissioning a new Royal Bahamas Defense Force Annex building, Fit for Life Cafe and Gym, which will be managed and operated by the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. It will provide healthy food options for the RBDF officers and staff at the Ministry of National Security. Minister of National Security Wayne Munro gave remarks before cutting the ribbon and taking a tour of the building.
There are lots of studies that would highlight that there's a relationship between unhealthy employees and impact in the workplace, be they industrial accidents, sick leave, or otherwise. Fit for life has potentially two meanings. One you've heard, which is physical fitness. The other, of course, means you're either fit to live or fit not to live. The Minister of Health and Wellness, in his budget, communication, and speech, indicated that he has a budget for, he was proud of, wellness. I'm pleased to say that this cafe and gym would play a part of wellness for members of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force and for employees of the Ministry of National Security.
Minister Monroe further revealed the facility will contribute to allowing officers and the Ministry of National Security staff to operate the command center in the Orville A. Turnquest building at all hours. And that'll do it for your JCN Evening News. Once again, I'm Jerino Saunders. Thank you for joining us.
This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.